A return to the college football playoff and much more is expected of the Texas Longhorns in 2025, and this year could be their best roster under Steve Sarkisian. Do they have the pieces, and do they have everything else to get over that hump and win a national championship? Their first since 2005. 2025 will be the year to decide. Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. This is SEC Live here at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Follow me on X at Lucas Hill SEC. Follow the Voice of College Football at THEVOCFB. Joining me to talk all things Texas football and preview an exciting 25 season, none other, Zay Collier of Texas Sports Unfiltered, my good friend and buddy. Zay, good to have you on, my friend. How are you this fine morning?
Not too shabby, my guy. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, brother. You know, we've been talking a good bit, and I've been actually planning to have you on pretty soon. It's just been a crazy couple weeks, but I'm glad we finally got it going. Big season for Texas, of course, and it starts August 30th. And I think, in my opinion, this is where we're going to start off. This game, in my opinion, could essentially dictate the rest of the year for Texas at this point forward. A loss doesn't kill you. A win puts you over that hump and shows the college football world, in my opinion, that Texas is truly back. And I'm sure some people are going to say in the comments that, oh, well, Texas had two great seasons, two 11-win seasons, made the CFP. How can we truly believe that they're really back after two pretty impressive seasons? Well, this is a season that's much, much tougher than what you had last week. And I think that's one of the big differences that me and you talked about before is, can Texas finally get over that hump, and then can you win a big game on the road? So, Zay, my first question for you is, brother, when you look at this Ohio State game already early on, what's going to be the big difference in that football game, and how do you think that will dictate the rest of the season for Texas?
Well, I think the difference is what the quarterback's going to do for Ohio State. You know, Julian saying it seems like he's going to be the guy. I know Keenholz is doing a really good job of pushing him for that number one spot. Lincoln Keenholz, the backup over there at Ohio State. So, you know, what's that quarterback matchup going to look like? Arch Manning coming in, first road start. That's a lot. And how this Texas team handles all the pressure, all the expectations, you know, all the hype. That's going to be very interesting to see as the year goes on. So, you know, with this Ohio State game, you got to rely on your defense, which is going to be damn good. Steve Sarkisian just said in his last press conference, he thinks he has about 15 to 16 starters on that defense. He has about 4 linebackers that he feels like he could put out there on any given Saturday. So you feel really good about the defense kind of setting the tone in Columbus on August 30th. And hopefully the offense can slowly start to pick it up and feed off the defense by putting them in really good field positions. So I feel really good about Texas coming in opening day. Now, the schedule, brutal. The schedule is absolutely brutal. Say what you want about it. I know it flipped from last year in 2024, and a lot of people thought that schedule was a little mid. But I think this year, look at October, man. You don't have one home game. They're counting that Cotton Bowl Red River Showdown as a home game, which that's in Dallas, Texas. That's a neutral site game. It's split half and half, both sides. That Oklahoma Red, that Texas Burnt Orange. So that ain't no home game. You go to Athens, you got A&M, you got Arkansas back-to-back. Those are 2 rival games. You got to go to the Swamp. So winning this game is huge. And the pressure's on the Horns coming into this Ohio State game, where I feel like if Ohio State loses, they could still finesse their way around the Big Ten and get in the college football playoff. I'm not saying if Texas loses, they won't make the CFP, but with the schedule that I just laid out for you, it's going to be a tougher mountain to climb. Do I think they could do that? For sure. But this season, it's going to be really interesting, and they're going to face their adversity. And even though they're really stacked talent-wise, they're going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah, Zay, I'm glad you mentioned the schedule because you're right. It is a different gauntlet compared to what you had last year. And I think completely agree with you. quarterback play is going to be a big difference for Texas this year. I hear all the hype about Arch Manning, and you and I have also discussed this. I have Arch Manning 5th in my SEC quarterback rankings. And, I mean, from the lack of film that I've seen, I don't know how to evaluate him right now. You've obviously gotten a better view of him. How has he been throughout fall camp, throughout the spring? How has he been just in 2025 in general as we prep for 2 weeks from now?
He's doing all the right things. I mean, we know with the Manny name, he definitely knows how to carry himself as a quarterback. And it's more than just completing passes. It's how you're a leader in the locker room. It's how your team looks at you and says, oh, we have confidence in you each and every Saturday to go out and lead us. And I think he does that on and off the field. He's very hard on himself. You know, you've heard him to drop a few F-bombs once or twice in practice when he makes mistakes. So, you know, I think he holds himself really accountable, but he's also a fun guy. If you see him, which comes with the family, you think about Eli, you think about his father Cooper, you think about Peyton. All those guys are hilarious with their commercials and endorsements over the years. And Arch, he has that about him to where even though it's a very pressure, brutal, violent game, you can still have fun. It's still a kid's game. You can still be light about the situation. And I think he does a really good job of balancing those things out. So even though he hasn't played a full season and he's coming in with the most pressure that I think any athlete has ever had, no matter what sport. Like, you could compare the type of pressure Arch Manning's having to LeBron James. Like, I don't think you're BSing that at all. So how he handles that, I think his teammates, Steve Sarkisian, his coaching staff, you know, his comfort group, his support system, everything that's around him definitely has to help him achieve the goals that I know that he's strived for himself, from national championships to Heisman's, basically everything that national media is putting on him. I know that he wants that, but it's one play at a time. And I think he has the right mindset going into this season, but it is going to be interesting to see how that adversity hits. What's that one strip sack fumble going to look like? What's that one pick six that you throw? What's that going to look like? How are you going to overcome those situations? I know Texas fans might be oblivious to thinking that those things can happen, but they can. So that's what I'm looking to see. I think he is very poised and his mental is very strong, but again, we haven't seen him go on the road like this, like we're going to see in Columbus in a week or so, or a week and some change. Like, this is new territory for him, and even though I think he's up for it, it's going to be a lot.
In my opinion, Zay, it's not Ohio State that's the most important game of the season for Texas. It's Florida. Florida is a much better team than they were at this point in time last year. You have DJ Lagway, who's got a year under his belt, who statistically wise, you can nitpick at that 12-9 touchdown to interception ratio. Guys, when he makes plays, you know that he can be a star in the making. Look at LSU. Look at what he did to that defense. Look at what he did in the first couple series against Georgia. Guys, they were going to win that football game down the stretch if he would have stayed healthy. I know it's going to be probably the deepest that this Texas defense has been in the Sark era. We talk about Anthony Hill. We talk about a guy that could potentially be a top 10 pick last year. Shades of Devin White, I will say. When you look at this Texas defense as a whole, what is the key piece that we need to look out for? What is a weakness that could potentially, I wouldn't say get exposed, but have some sort of gaps in between Ohio State and when we get to Florida to start off SEC play?
Well, first of all, I think this defense is going to be terrific. I think, again, as Steve Sarkisian says, you got about 15, 16 guys that could be starters for a lot of programs in the SEC. And I think it's really about the new coaches coming in. You got Alan Clark as an edge rushers coach coming in from Ohio
Central
State.
alum, high school alum.
Yeah, exactly. And he's done a hell of a job from a recruiting standpoint and also developing guys and adding pieces to guys' games like Ethan Burke, like Colin Simmons. So just kind of the newness there. Dwayne Akina, he's kind of an OG that was, back around during the Mac Brown era. He's in the secondary. He's also a legend. So you have a lot of hope for him. But, Mark Orfe, he's also a secondary coach. So they got some newness there. And it's always intriguing for me to see how do these guys come in and fit in the first game too, because it's not just a lot of these other guys' first games, it's these coaches' first games also. So how does that work? They still got their defensive coordinator, Pete Kwiatkowski, that they've had since Steve Sarkisian's been at the 40 acres. Johnny Nansen, linebacker coach, terrific. So you add all those high caliber coaches to a really, really talented roster. The secondary, that's, even though I feel really good about it, that's something that might look a little different from last year. And that's what I would say to your question, Lucas. That's something that it doesn't necessarily worry me, but I'll be watching because it's hard to replace a Thorpe Award winner and Jahdae Barron, who's now playing for the Denver Broncos as a first-round pick, and Andrew Makuba, who's now playing for the Eagles, who had a really good season. So Michael Tapp, All-American. You expect him to be solid always. Malik Muhammad, look out for him. I think he is a sleeper for the Thorpe Award winner this year. This is a contract year for him, man. Guys, they always say the right things when they're in these press conferences, Lucas, and he did, but when he was asked about, is this a contract year for you? He was like, just trying to be where my feet are and be there for my team, but it's in the back of my mind. So him being over 6 foot, Sark said that he challenged him a week ago, and coming into this last scrimmage, he was the highlight player of that defense. And Manny Muhammad, I expect him to have a big-time season. They're moving Jalen Gilbo, who was at that nickel star spot. They're moving him to one of the outside corners. So you got to watch that to see if that will be a good move. But the rest of the secondary, guys like Kobe Black, Grayson Littleton, the freshman, is getting a lot of love for that star nickel position. So is Wardell Mack. And, you feel really good about Jelani McDonald, who's around 6'2", 6'3", and definitely brings a punch when it comes to his tackling ability. So I feel really good about this defense overall. It's hard to pick a weakness. The linebacker room's strong. The edge rusher room might be the best in the nation, led by Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke. Maybe the defensive tackle spot is something to keep your eye on, but you feel good about the guys they brought in. Cole Brevard from Purdue. They bring in Murad Watson from Syracuse. Alex January's development has really come along. Travis Shaw was a former 5-star at North Carolina. Didn't pan out there, but they're expecting big things from him in the interior, according to Kenny Baker, defensive line coach. So I love this defense, man. I think that this defense is going to take a lot of the love and I wouldn't say love, but I would say just kind of the hype that's around Arch Manning. Everybody's looking at Arch. This defense might be the best in the nation.
How much will Jonah Williams play, or do you think he's taking a red shirt this year?
I don't think he's taking a red shirt. I think they're kind of easing him in this season. Baseball season, he was dealing with a lot of injuries. He was dealing with a hamstring issue, and those hamstrings, they could be a mother. So you got to really be smart about his rehab process, and you don't want to throw him to the wolves too soon. And that's, I think he's a terrific athlete. I think he's incredible what he's trying to do, play both baseball and football. But he's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his young career, going back to his high school days where he didn't even – I don't know if he played the full senior season at Galveston Ball because he had a collarbone injury. And then again, like I said, playing for Jim Schlossnagle on this Texas baseball team, he had injuries there that he was kind of dealing with the whole time, and he was in and out of the lineup. So now you're going to football, and hopefully the strength and conditioning coach, Torrey Beckton, could get him right. But I expect him more of a special teams guy. I expect him more of a Texas up by 40 now he's getting reps type of player, but anything meaningful, I'd be really surprised if we saw Jonah Williams getting meaningful reps this season.
I think the most important piece to this roster as a whole, and we're going to the offensive side of the ball, it's the receiver room. Knowing how deep this is, knowing that you got Emmett Mosley from the portal, didn't play a whole lot, only started 8 games, still had over 500 yards receiving. Deep play threat, guy that you could probably line up on the outside. You look at the young freshman in Khalil Lockett, who I think Dave Campbell has number 1 as one of the top freshmen to look out for in the state of Texas. Everybody knows about Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. Who's that X factor on the offensive side of the ball that we're not paying attention to that's going to make a big impact?
It could be a few. I would say Cal transfer tight end, Jack Endries. I think that he could have a hell of a season because Steve Sarkisian, the way that he uses his tight end, it's different. You know, he asks a lot for his tight end. And if you could figure it out, which it might take some time, like Gunnar Helm was in Steve Sarkisian's system for a while. JT Sanders was in Steve Sarkisian's system for a while. So for a player to come from Cal, which I think Jack Endries just got here in the summer, that could be a lot because Sark's playbook could be a bit complex. But if he could pick it up and if he can figure out that playbook and just all the motion and movement, pre-snap stuff, then Jack Endries could be a hell of a player. I also think DeAndre Moore could have a contract year. I know Ryan Wingo's getting a lot of love, as he should. I think Ryan Wingo has tremendous upside, but DeAndre Moore is just steady. And the way that he was talking coming into this season, he has all the confidence in the world. You know, dude's going for Biletnikoff. He's trying to break the touchdown record at Texas. He's trying to get over 1,200 yards. So I think even though that's a lot, I think he could get close to all of those things. It's just a matter of, can Arch get him the ball in his spots? Like, I think DeAndre Moore, you can line him up anywhere, and this could be one of those years for him. So, yeah, injuries, Moore, you know, CJ Baxter. In fact, coming from a PCL, LCL injury, Sark was talking about, you know, slowly getting him in the rhythm, you know, of football shape. And now Sark said this past Saturday, he's changed his tune on that. Like, CJ Baxter has exceeded expectations to this point, to where Sark was saying in his presser, him and Contravian Wisner are like 1A and 1B. So that surprised the hell out of me. And if CJ Baxter, who's around 6 foot, tree trunk legs, if mentally, because physically he's back, but if mentally he could get back right, oh man, I think this offense, it'll take this offense to new heights if they could use him in the role where coming out of high school, being that 5-star player, that's what you expect at this point. But again, those injuries that he dealt with, wouldn't be surprised if he started off slow, but with the way Sark's talking, hey, throw him in the fire.
You know, I think that's what you saw, too, in his freshman year at 23 when he took over for Jonathan Brooks in the middle part of the season. You saw that explosiveness that Baxter had. Now, how much will he have coming back from that PCL, LCL injury? We don't know yet. It's hard to come back from a complete tear like that. Knowing that he's had the full year to recover, we'll see what he does in the offense. Good news coming from Sark. Glad that you mentioned that. Overall, when you look at that running back room, I already have that option game with Arch Manning and this Texas running back room, one of the top, probably top 2 at least. I know Marcel Reed in this running back room is up there. Do you think that at the first part of the season that it's going to be an option-oriented offense before you start getting Arch comfortable with throwing the football?
No, not necessarily. I think you're going to see a lot of the things that you saw with Quinn Ewers, except now you can add some more of that design run type stuff with Arch Manning because of his versatility and his athleticism. So I still think, you know, they're going to air it out. And I think they're definitely going to use that running back room to the T. Now, the question is the 4 new starters on the offensive line, are they ready for this? Are they ready to step up and take over for a very experienced, very veteran offensive line that we saw these last few years at Texas that went to back-to-back CFP semifinal games? That's a big-time question mark. DJ Campbell, he's the only returning starter. You got Cole Hudson, who this is his first year playing full-time center. And even though they're very confident in him, doesn't have much experience at that spot. That room's a little light because Andre Kojo went out for the season with an ACL injury. He was in the battle with Brandon Baker for that right tackle spot. Now it's pretty much Baker's spot. Very high on him. He's getting Kelvin Banks comparisons. They're high on Trevor Gooseby. They're high on Neto Umazulu, who's probably going to take over that left guard spot. So even though they're high on all of these guys, it's Texas. There's 4 or 5 stars everywhere. They still don't have much experience. So where are they going to struggle? Is it going to be in pass protection or is it going to be in run blocking? Hopefully, Arch and that running back room can negate all of the mistakes that the offensive line has whenever it happens. But you're playing against scholarship, big-time Power 4 players also that know how to get it done. So that's, with the run game, I'm high on it with that running back room. I'm high on this offensive line group. But you got to remember, there's probably only 3 guys, Contravian Wisner, DeAndre Moore, and DJ Campbell, that you could say were bona fide starters last year. Everybody else, this is their first year being a part of the ones, that first team. So how the learning curve, when is that going to hit, and is it going to hit? Something to watch for with this 2025 Texas Longhorn football team.
And that's why I say this could be a run-oriented team first because of how they did in pass pro last year. Even with the amount of experience that you had against top-tier edge rush teams, like what happened against Ohio State, like what you saw a little bit against Texas A&M. When you ran the football effectively, you were kicking ass. You were running the football down dudes' throats. With pass pro, that was a big weakness, in my opinion, from what I saw from Texas last year. I'm glad you mentioned DJ Campbell because I was on your show a couple weeks ago and I said DJ Campbell is probably going to be the next Mekhi Becton, seeing what he's been doing in this offense, how effectively he moves whenever he pulls, whenever he's at that guard position. They didn't have him at tackle last year. I think that was it Cam they had him at tackle, or was that DJ they put him at tackle?
No, they had Cam Williams at tackle last year.
I figured that was the case. I wasn't sure because it's 2 Williams and it's kind of hard to keep track. But I think regardless, DJ's just such a big body. He's got the frame for a typical NFL guard. I just see so much of Becton that I think this could also, you talk about contract years, this is DJ Campbell's contract year for sure.
Yeah, he thought about entering the draft this last season, and he realized he had to tighten some things up. Last year, it wasn't an off year for him, but he was kind of platooning with Cole Hudson a lot last year. And the year before, 2023, he had a better season. I think a lot of that went to Christian Jones at right tackle and the communication that those two had at the line. Cam Williams and DJ Campbell, they didn't have that bond that DJ and Christian Jones had in 2023 and 2024. So now here in 2025, you're hoping that Brandon Baker could pick off of what Christian Jones had. And again, not saying Cam Williams was a bad player. I think Cam Williams got exposed due to that injury that he had on his leg against Ohio State, where he looked awful, and the pre-snap stuff. Cam Williams had a lot of penalties. So if you erase those things, which that's a big if, Cam Williams, he makes sense as a second-round pick, but he had those things, which is why he slipped so far in the draft. DJ Campbell is a freak. Like you said, his pulling ability, the way that he could get out in the open field and make those big blocks on those secondary defenders and linebackers, That's what's going to make him a lot of bucks and allow him to play on Sundays, to where I think he's going to have a very long career. But it's just about the little things, the communication. I think him being that lone starter on this offensive line and having that veteran presence. He's speaking in press conferences. Kyle Flood, offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, loves him. And Steve Sarkisian and these guys have a lot of confidence in him. So, yeah, I expect DJ Campbell to have an amazing year and to lead this very young offensive line.
Last one for you, Zay, before we let you go. How big is the freaking target on Vanderbilt's back this year with with Diego Pavia going on a lot of podcasts, talking a lot at media days? How big is that daggum target?
It's big, but it's also Vanderbilt. Let's keep it buck. Like, they're still going to be.
You got to think about this too. Vandy hasn't had this type of swag come in since Johnny Football was at Texas A&M.
I mean, he is a bootleg
From a
Johnny
program
Football.
that was essentially nothing about. I wouldn't say Texas A&M wasn't anything, but Texas A&M was the new kid on the block in 2012 in the SEC. I would say Vanderbilt's kind of in that same boat, not necessarily the new kid on the block, but the new kid on the block that's used to winning.
No, I get what you're trying to say. Like, there is a point of time still, in a way, it's hard for Texas A&M to have swag. It's hard for Texas A&M to have aura with, their odd traditions and just their own swag that they have. It's tough. Johnny, he changed all that. Diego, he's changing the swag or lack thereof that Vanderbilt has had. So I respect it. Like, I respect Diego Pavia and what he's brought, him and Clark Lee. They're not going to surprise anyone. So like you said, they do have a target on their back, but it's also Vanderbilt. You know what I'm saying? I still think that some of these schools out here, kind of like what we saw with Alabama, they're going to get caught slipping because they don't have that respect meter there because they're Vanderbilt. Like, come on now. So I get both sides. I see the target on the back, and I see them also still having that underdog mentality and feeling. But yeah, Diego Pavia, he's a gamer, man. And that offense that they run, it's very difficult to, predict and read and play against. And they run it very well. So when that game happens and Vanderbilt comes in the DKR, that's definitely going to be a trap game for sure.
Zay Collier, Texas Sports Unfiltered, joining us to talk all things Texas football. Zay, my friend, thank you so much for hopping on, brother. We appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll chat it up pretty soon, brother.
Appreciate you for having me, dog. Y'all be cool.
Guys, this has been SEC Live here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We will be live Monday. I'll be on South Carolina Live. Maybe Gunner will make an appearance every once in a while. Guys, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification. We'll see y'all this upcoming week.